So I had a bit of an obvious realization yesterday. One of my favorite sayings is, "It's easy when it's easy. It's hard when it's hard." And it's something that I believe, right? Like, and I believe it in like a deep, nuanced level. That when things are going well, when you're in a good mood, when everything's kind of working out in your favor, it's really easy to be a good person, to do the right thing. But when things are hard, right? When the situation is hard, things aren't going your way, you're frustrated, you haven't caught a break, then doing the right thing, being a good person is much harder. Conceptually, I get that, and it makes perfect sense to me. But I think I take for granted the word hard and what it really means. Like the idea that when it's hard, it's hard. I think, so it sounds stupid to say, right? But what I mean by that is I think what I've kind of taken for granted is that it starts to get easy. What's hard gets easier. And there's some truth to that, right? You start to build up a tolerance for discomfort. You start to think more clearly and have more clarity. So decisions that seemed hard before become easier. And that's true. But the statement is the statement, right? Those things then become easier. So then it's easier to do the right thing, which is good. Like net, you're making progress. The challenge is, what about when it's still hard? What about when it passes your threshold or tolerance for discomfort? What about when you don't have clarity, right? The situation is one, or the topic is one that's so personal to you or core to your identity that you still do have blind spots and it's fucking still hard, right? In those moments, obviously, it's still really hard. And that never goes away, right? I think that's the realization I had, and it's seemingly an obvious one, but it's an important one. This idea that at some point this will all get easy, I don't know, maybe, but it doesn't seem to be the case. It's all relative, but there always will be something that's hard, right? Now, if my son drops a piece of pizza on the floor, 5 years ago, I might have got frustrated and angry stupidly, right? And I can explain all the reasons for that. And it would have been hard for me to control myself and not lash out or whatever. Now that's easy. Now that's no problem. But maybe an argument with my wife about something important, well, that's still important. I haven't figured all that out yet. It's still personal to me. I don't have the clarity. The discomfort is too high, and I still do act the wrong way. And, it's easy to get frustrated about that and beat myself up and all those things. But I think the takeaway is like, listen, that's the game, right? You have to figure out a way. How can you make that thing easy, right? Can you somehow build up your tolerance or figure out how to get more clarity? But if you can't, if it's always going to be hard, because there always will be something hard, I think, how do you deal with that? And that to me kind of gets to what I talk about often, kind of that George Washington moment where the math, right? Because what does it mean that it's hard? To me, it means that in that moment, whatever the thing is that's bothering me or upsetting me or whatever's going on, the math that I'm running is telling me like, you are justified to be angry. You are justified to let somebody know how pissed off you are or what the problem is that they're doing or whatever it is, right? That's what's happening. That math is there. And even when I'm thoughtful about it, even in those moments when I'm hard and I tell myself like, hey, do the right thing here. Don't get crazy. Don't get excited. It's as if the math is just spitting right back in my face and being like, none of that matters. It's still hard. And that's really the key and the trick. It's in those moments, right? When the math seems clear, when you're justified, when everything feels right, that like, hey, I can go do this, that you still have to do the other thing, right? Even when the math doesn't seem to add up. And we've talked about that in other videos. And I guess lastly, what I'll say about this is, for me, I always try and take experiences like this as what's the learning? What can I take from this? All input is good input. For me, it's a good opportunity for me to empathize, right? There's so many moments where I can look outwardly and I see people that seemingly take the easy shot, right? Maybe they sacrifice truth for simplicity, or they seem to lash out in some way, they get overly emotional, or maybe, they feel justified and they say something that's either, insulting or offensive, but they feel like it's okay to say it. And I always think, well, that doesn't seem right. This is an opportunity to remember what that feels like from my side.